Good morning. We are in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, which is the source and foundational text of the end of Hemshech Hayim Beis. We are on page 403, discussing Ner Mitzvah as it leads into V'Teira Ur. After explaining Ner Mitzvah at length, on page 402, the Mittler Rebbe began to talk about Teira Ur. So it was an introductory paragraph, which we're going to get back to after we finish the whole subject matter, about how Teira Ur is the mamutza, both for the Neir, the candle of mitzvahs, and the candle of a neshama. But to understand it, he said, Mehine ma'ata yesh lahavin, what it says with Teira Ur, the mashma, when you say Ner mitzvah Teira Ur, it appears that it means that the Ner mitzvah on its own, below Teira, is a Ner below Ur. In other words, if his Ner mitzvah is the candle, mitzvah provides the candle, whereas the Teira that represents the Ur. So even though you have Shem and a Psila, oil and a wick, but ain't a klum without the Ur. And this is not just the concept of a mitzvah. Even when you're busy doing a mitzvah, esek b'mitzvah, and it being done with kavanah, with intention, and usa deliba through the neshama, which is the psila, the wick that we spoke about before, and it's called also ner. It's still einei klum l'fi she'einei Hashem meir ba. So you're doing the mitzvah, but the Ur is dependent on Torah. So ask the Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe, if that's what the pasuk is saying, we know l'cheira yesh tira gdeil is a mekama mekemis. There's a great contradiction to this from a number of places that talk about that mitzvahs are even higher than Torah. Maiso iker hayem la'seisam save davar mitzvahs of shomer shmartim basisam esam save maisa all machshavet chila nesave. In other words, it's all wedged. The beginning is wedged in the end in the safe maisa. And that's where you have the Pnimius, Ika Pnimius Hatayna Gaposhta Atzmi, which is higher than the Chachma of Teira. And even Talmud Gadol is also Mevil de Maisa. Because in Maisa Mitzvah, Maisa Atzmo Zeu Etzma Ratzu Shalamadim Minatam. So it's true, Teira introduces Oir, but we're talking about something that's higher than Oir, the Etzim itself. And then he goes on and says the Chachma of Teira is the Chachma of Keser, where there's a Tam Komus, there's a hidden reason, but there's something higher than that, the Ratzon itself. Not the hidden reason, that Ratzon itself is higher than the Sechel, than the Tam Komus. It's the skull that's higher than even the superconscious mind. So ve'echomer the mitzvah shenikra ner v'teira. But so why do you say ner mitzvah v'teira, which seems to indicate that there's no air at all without air the Teira in the mitzvah. The primary air of Atzmus Ein Sof is dafke in mitzvah. And that I from Elam Haba, so Gili air Atzmus Ein Sof mamish, and it's higher than the air Teira. And ain't the other Teira fila Teira ain't like. So Teira itself is needs mitzvahs. When you say the Teira, mashma she'er the mitzvahs, she'nikra ner. Yeah. And we say the Teira is mashma of mitzvahs, which is called ner. So which one is it? Is it the mitzvahs themselves that have this power? Or the mitzvahs don't have? And it's Teira Ur that is the key that brings Ur. So what is the pasuk saying in context of understanding the Mila of mitzvahs? So to understand this, we'll start the next paragraph. I'll read it again, even though I started. But he's going to explain like this. Achine yesh lo hagdim tchila. To understand this, we have to first preface lahavin to understand b'sheirish inyan achachma de Teira shenikra. in the root of the Ina Chachma of Teira, which is called Eir. What exactly is this when we say Teira's Chachma, Eir? In Yadua Sheyesh Beis Min Eir. There's two levels of Eir. Echad Eir de Teira Haba Tzimtzum, Achar HaCheshech. One is the Eir of Teira that comes in a state of Tzimtzum, of diminishment and concealment. Achar HaCheshech, that follows the darkness. Shubchinas Helam V'Hester. So in other words, after the world was created and there's a Helam V'Hester, there's the Eir of Teira that comes into that darkness. The Eir that comes into the darkness is only a gili, a very limited. Efes Ketzei means just an edge, just a little of an edge alone. And the primary and the source of Eir Teira remains Behelam V'Hester. So it's like a Teira that's coming into existence, but in a very diminished form. Kumoy harav, like a teacher, that diminishes and conceals within himself the expansiveness, the breadth and the depth of the seichel. So the teacher, what's he doing with the seichel in order to be mashpia? He's taking the breadth and the depth of the seichel, which is very deep, amuk amuku, behelam achad helam, in a concealment beyond the concealment, bilti yuvan v'yusag, that's beyond understanding and comprehension. Memenu rak efes k'tzei b'nekuda ba'alma, that there's only it's bilti. So he's taking from that only a little, like a tip of the iceberg. Efes k'tzei, just a drop of that profound seichel, k'nekuda ba'alma, which is only like a point, one nekuda, 1 point. Shu masha nikra eir hameir lemekabel bavad, and that's called the eir hameir, the light that shines, only the amount that shines for the recipient. So all the depth and all the expanded breadth of the seichel remains concealed, and what he's giving the mekabel is only a small brekele, a small edge. The im loy helam ha'omek lo yochel gam ze yolavi begili klal. If he did not conceal the depth, even this small gili could not have been revealed. So he had to conceal it all in order to be able to just reveal one piece, so the makabel, the recipient, can receive it. V'nimtza. So what do we know from this? What do we derive from this? Shemisamtzim u'misalim b'yeser, that the seichel is deeply diminished and concealed. Kishabol gili eir efes ketseyu. That when it comes in a state of gili, just a small measure of gili, just a small part of it, it goes through a great tzimtzum. Like we see that the teacher has to conceal the idea in examples and in riddles, riddles. He has to take the seichel and get it through a type of metamorphosize it, transform it, that it should be a different muhus, because the seichel in its original form is too abstract for the recipient. So he puts it in examples and in riddles till it can be understood in muhus achar, like a different paradigm, in a different idiom. Lefierach hamakabel, which is commensurate to the recipient. Ketinuk, like a child, shesichli kotten. For example, when you have to bring it to a child's level, you have to bring it down to the language and examples that the child can relate to. Shesichli kotten, because his mind is far less mature, far less developed. Ukahai gavna, and similarly, meaning other students, anyone that's on their level, ukiyadua, as it's known. So bottom line, he's talking about an eir of chachma here, that is chachma, but it's coming down, like he says, Tzimtzum achar ha'cheshech, in a great tzimtzum and diminishment. That's the first level. V'zeu b'chinas ha'er de chachma shema'ayin timotza, la'achar ha'tzimtzum de cheshech dafke. This is when we say chachma ma'ayin timotza, Chokhmah comes from ayin, because Chokhmah is just a small spark that comes after the Tzimtzum of Cheshach Dafka, after there's a darkness, a concealment and darkness. That's where the Nekuda, the spark of Chokhmah comes from. So we see that this is the Chokhmah that comes after the Cheshach and Tzimtzum. Kamoi, Bebrias Elemis, like we find in the creation of the worlds. The first thing we learned that was Bereishis Bara Elokim then says Cheshach al Pnei Tehem. The darkness covered the entire existence. And then Vayemer Elokim Yehi Eir. And then God said, let there be light. So we see from that the light follows the Cheshach, the Tzimtzum, the concealment. Just 1 second, I want to just see something here. Okay. Another example for this that is bringing Meshakos of Yoshas Cheshach Sisrei. The Eibishter says, I've established darkness. You've established Yoshas. Established darkness Sisrei as his concealment. What?
Yoshes.
Yoshes Cheshach Sisrei. His established darkness. Sisrei is his hiding place. So Cheshach is his place where he dwells. So that's darkness. And then Megala Mukis Min Cheshach, he reveals the depths Min Cheshach from within the Cheshach from within the Cheshach. Shezeu kamay betzimtzum ha'atzmus loheir begili efes katseu. That's what we're talking here. That tzimtzum of the atzmus of the core is being concealed in order to radiate some efes katseu. Because again, katseu means like an edge. Efes means just a bare minimum edge, a bare little speck. Ukamay sha'omar. Like Chazal say, Kibriyosha Shalelam. Talk about day and night. So it talks about like the creation of the world. First came Vahi Erev, Vahi Beker. First there was Bereisha, the beginning was darkness, Dafke, Vahodar. And then that followed Nehera, light. Vahi Erev. First there was evening, Vahi Beker. And afterwards there was morning. This is the level of Eira Chochmah, the light of Chochmah and Chesed. Now he mentions, which with the world was created Ma'ayin Liyesh. In that, first Tzimtzum, Cheshach, then Gilui. And why is that? Next page, 404. Lefisha Bria Bob B'chinas Yesh Mamish, because since the Bria is becoming a very Yesh Mamish, an independent consciousness, an independent substance. If the world was not a yesh, so you could say that the earth doesn't have to be sat concealed, but for it to be a yesh substance that it values itself and is an entity of its own consciousness, independent consciousness, it cannot be if the can only happen if the Ur comes achrei helem v'atzimtzum b'tam moshel hanal b'chol shefa mashpia makabel. For the reason that the moshel that we gave before with the teacher and the student, that every flow, every shefa, every transmission of mashpia makabel requires a tzimtzum that it should be able to be commensurate to, that the makabel should receive. Since the world is being created yesh ma'ayin, you need a yesh. It's not remaining ayin. That's why the oil has to go through a tzimtzum to be able to draw that energy. Think of it like if electricity just flowed into your appliance without any regulator, without any filter, it would just blow all the circuits. So in other words, once the Mashpia Makabel immediately dictates that the oil is going to go through a tzimtzum. Okay, that's the first level of oil Teira. Teira as it comes after the Cheshach. What about the second level? What's the second level? But before I continue, since I read an entire piece here, any questions? I think it's pretty clear what we just read. So, but if there's still questions, I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, so now he goes further. Like he said at the beginning of the paragraph, last page, that there's two levels. What's the second level? However, the second level, this is an air that's much higher, far higher than darkness. Which is the first concealment and the first tzimtzum. We're talking about an air that precedes the cheshach and the helam. V'hainu, which means, and this means, liyaz b'chinas air atzmi de ein sei baruch hu. Now we're talking about the air atzmi of ein sei baruch hu that is not being filtered and that is not being diminished and channeled after a cheshach to the makabel. Kamoishu torem shemitzamtzum, as that light is prior to being diminished. Umaylim eire liyaz behelam v'hesta nikra cheshach sisrei. Before it was concealed in a state of concealment and covering, which is called cheshach sisrei, the darkness of his place. Prior to that, that's another level. That's er atzmi, he calls that now. The mashakosov yoshes. Okay, cheshach sisrei ukahai gavna. What it says, that darkness is his place, and similar such expressions, zeo achar hester er de atzmus. That's after there's a concealment of er de atzmus. Oz yoshes cheshach sisrei. Then you say cheshach is the place where he's to be found, his hiding place, so to speak, sisrei, his location. Ad shenikras stima dechol stimin the less machshava tvisa beklal. To the point it's called stima dechol stimin, the covering of all coverings, the concealment of all concealments, because no thought can grasp them. That's correct, but that's after there's a tzimtzum. But there's a state before that is the etzem ha'er. Clearly, he's not talking about helam ha'atzmi here, for the record. But we'll get to that when we need to get to it. So he's talking about an air that precedes, because even that he says that comes achar has to air the atzmus.
This is before helam ha'atzmi.
No, he's not talking about the helam ha'atzmi here. He's talking about the air before the tzimtzum harishon. I don't know if there's an air before the helam ha'atzmi, to be honest, but that's another discussion. He's talking now. There's the tzimtzum. There's the air after the tzimtzum. He's talking now the air before the tzimtzum, what he's calling atzmi. Let's see how he reads. Let's see how he explains it. I don't want to jump. Maybe he's going to say something that we'll see. Where do we see this? Before we talked about Bereishis Chashech, we see first comes darkness, then light in creation. Here we're talking about a light that precedes darkness. So the Gelal air that the air, so to speak, was bypassed, was removed, so-called curled back. It was turned back due to the darkness. So in other words, first there was air, and then the darkness descended, and the air, like we say by Glila, was wrapped. That the air was wrapped away in face of the darkness that came, the darkness that descended. Haba achra, the darkness that came after the light. Now we're talking about the air of atzmus. It ain't so before the tzimtzum. Shegelale, that he like wrapped up, that was like receded, you can say. V'nichol, and it was encompassed by atzmus hamoir, core source, the core luminary. So the light, so to speak, receded back into its source. In order for there to be the tzimtzum harishon. So in order for that concealment, Cheshach Sisrei, that dark place where it was now the place of where he resides. So in other words, like he says in Eitz Chaim, the first Ein Sof filled everything, but then in order to create existence, the is so-called receded in order to leave the space in this Cheshach, space for the Cheshach, for the concealed state. And then it says, "V'geil Cheshach mipnei Oyer, v'Cheshach mipnei Oyer haba achrav." Then after the Tzimtzum is the opposite. The Cheshach then is recedes in order to bring the Oyer. Zeu gili Oyer achar ha'helam v'Cheshach Sisrei. Then comes the Oyer that follows the Cheshach Sisrei. Bebriya de Bereishis Chashecha. Like we said, in creation, where the first is dark, then comes light. Kadeshi yir gili efes katseu levad, canal. In order there should be some type of revelation, which is of course the kav, is what comes after the tzimtzum. He doesn't mention that yet. I think he will soon. That's the small amount of light that comes after. So basically, you have three states here: Oyer, then the Oyer recedes in order the Cheshach takes over. And then the Cheshach allows for a small amount of air to enter. Vidal. The signature Vidal of the Mittler Rebbe. Vidal Lemevin. And then he continues now with the example of the student and the teacher and the student. So let's read the example. Unless somebody wants to ask anything. I'll stop again for any questions. Again, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think it's very, we've learned this many times. So the topic is a pretty straightforward one, but still, if somebody wants to ask something, yeah, go ahead.
So this is the Choshech is the Tzimtzum Rishon, and the Oyer Shalifnei Zeh is coming after the Elam Atzmi.
He doesn't talk about Helam Atzmi. I told you he's not talking about Helam Atzmi. I don't want to even bring it here because I don't know where it fits or doesn't fit. He's not talking. He didn't mention Helam Atzmi.
But he's talking about the Oyer Shekoidem Tzimtzum.
That's clear. Yeah.
He's not going in the details that in this Oyer itself there are a few dargis. Oyer Shalifnei Tzimtzum.
Yes, correct. Correct. And the main thing is that there's two levels of Oyer. There's the Oyer after the Tzimtzum, Oyer before the Tzimtzum. He's coming to explain Teira Oyer. What means the Teira Oyer?
The Achar Tzimtzum? Teira Oyer.
Why don't you read? Go back to the beginning of the paragraph. He says, "Hine Yudush has beis min echad Oyer de Teira hababet Tzimtzum achad acheshech." The beginning of the paragraph, he says, Eir de Teira, hababet Tzimtzum achar acheshech, the Eir of Teira. But we're still in the middle. He didn't get back to Teira yet. He's now explaining two levels of Eir. In order to explain Teira Eir. That's what he's coming to explain. But we'll get there. Okay? V'zeu k'moy harav hamashpia. This is like the teacher, the transmitter, Shemagala kol b'chinas primis ve'atzmis chvachach k'moishu ba'atzmis shaloi b'li helam v'levush master klal. This, before we were talking about a level of that the mashpia reveals, commensurate to, tailored, and measured in a limited way to the recipient. What does the look like by the mashpia? When it's not filtered, when it's not limited, she says that's when he reveals Pnimis v'atzmis chochmah, his inner and core seichel, chochmah, k'moishe ba'atzmis shalei, as it's in his core essence, bli helam v'levush, without any concealment and garment, master cloud that covers it all. So if you're able to enter into the teacher's mind, how he understands it, there's no tzimtzum altogether. He's understanding the core essence of the idea. Ba'adarabah. And on the contrary, kol b'chinas helam v'hester nigla kamei shuhu, the ain't master of mailim klal. Even the helam v'hester that he employs, by him, he's not being concealed. When he's teaching Aleph, let's say to a child of Aleph Beis, in that Aleph, the student is only getting Efes Katseu, just a drop, one little speck. The teacher, so firstly, the Primius Atzmishali doesn't have any concealment, and even that which conceals, it's only from the perspective of the student. by him, there's no Adrabah. Kol b'chinas hell v'ester nigla. All hell v'ester is still revealed by him from his point of view. K'moishahu ve'ena master mailam klal. The concealment is only from the point of view of the recipient, not the point of view of the mashpia. Even the concealment. Yeah. And then he continues to explain what this means. Ukamoi, ukamoi, like kasher, kol seichel amuk b'yeser, by the teacher, every kol seichel amuk b'yeser, every seichel that the deeper it is. I'm sorry. That's it. Kasher kol seichel amuk b'yeser niglim halame. I think what he's saying is like this: that by the teacher, even the deepest seichel is nigla, is revealed from its concealment. In other words, even when he's concealing it for the recipient's point of view, for him it's revealed. Oi, kushya, the seid. Sasam vanellam, a moshel milo master, ain't a milo master klal. I think what he's saying here, I'm trying to understand exactly how he's explaining it. Because there's two things here. One is that by the teacher, there's no tzimtzum and helam altogether. He understands the idea in his core sense. Even that which is concealed does not conceal for him. It only conceals for the recipient point of view. I think he's saying there's two aspects to this. One is, kol seichel amuk b'yesa nigla me'elame. It's not affected by the helam because by him it's completely revealed. Oy kushiv v'seit sosem v'nelam. But even when he says a question, and he v'seit sosem v'nelam, and he says something like in a cryptic, concealed and hidden way, oy moshel milo masa, like he said before. He gives an example or a riddle that's concealed. Ein a milo master klal. For him, it does not conceal. I think he's saying both things, that the deepest seichel that is completely concealed from the recipient, for him is not concealed. And even that which is the tools that he's using to conceal, don't conceal for him. I think that's what he's saying here. It's just the language is a little, yeah. I think that's what he's saying. Let's continue reading. Ukamoi. Gam seichel hanela mekol rayon. So there's an expression in Zohar. Seichel hanela mekol rayon. A seichel that's concealed from any rayon means you can't even imagine it. Mekol rayon, not just it's completely from all intelligence, from all, yeah. Ein hanelem klal. By him, it's not concealed at all. And it's revealed for him like a revealed seichel. Like it says about Mashiach, the kol roz loy honestly, that every secret does not defy him, is not beyond him. And every hidden wisdom, even when hidden within the hidden after the hidden, is revealed before him. So he's saying, in other words, not just that the concealment doesn't affect him, by him alone, the whole seichel, even the deepest levels of concealed seichel, is completely revealed. Giving another example, by Shlema, when it says that Hashem gave Shlema Chachma, V'yadaber Gimel Alofim Moshel, and Shlema was capable of giving 3,000 examples. That was just a demonstration of the capacity of his seichel. 3,000 examples. Zehu, this too, shegila kol helam shebamoshla kadmeni,
which
he
means
revealed
1,000 levels, not 3,000 examples. A marshal, and in order to understand that, you need another marshal, 3,000 levels of mishalim.
That's what it says in Teira Eir. But there's also the simple interpretation that he had the ability to give 3,000 examples for one topic, which also demonstrates quite a feat. How many people can give 3,000 examples? What you're saying is an additional pshat in Teira Eir. But okay, it's fine.
I think
Zeu shegila kol helam.
that the pshat is, like I said, I don't know if I'm right, but I think so.
I think is the Alter Rebbe's pshat. I think the Pashta pshat you can type that he was able to give 3,000 examples for any topic. But regardless, it shows on tremendous chachma. Zeu shegila kol helam sheba moshla kadmeni. This means that he was able to reveal every concealment in the moshla kadmeni, even in the initial moshel, which is called Teira, called moshla kadmeni, u'kamoisha omar megala amukas mine cheshach. It reveals the depths within the cheshach, within the darkness. Had it called cheshach vehelim, the emek chochma, that even the darkness and even that which is concealed in the depths of chochma, megala, he's able to reveal. Like it is with every seichel and chacham that comes with a revealed comprehension. In other words, what he's adding here is the following. Number one, it's not subject to tzimtzum. In the previous atzmus is the seichel itself. Number two, even the meshalim even the helim that he employs for the student does not conceal for him. Number three, he's saying that the hidden elements of seichel in general, the deepest things for him, are all revealed. So it's not just that it's not concealed as it is for the student. Even the deepest and the deepest in seichel, helam achad helam, the depths are all open to him. That's what he means. Also, the moshel, he reveals the moshel al-kadmeni, meaning he's revealing the depths within all these meshalim. Im kein zehu shemera hira amitis. So, as such, that indicates a true indication. Ala yesh sheiros de b'chinas er kazeh. So all this tells us, says this indicates the fact that it's not subject to these halamas, and under Adrabah, he's able to reveal these concealed states. That means that the shadish of this eir so it's not just he's revealing the light that is not revealed after the tzimtzum. Why? She'im kein lo yoyer ze megala amukas de chochma aloma shenikra cheshach sisrei shenis tzamtzum at sheyov men ragili er kazeh mit tzimtzum canal. Okay, let me explain and then we'll read inside. The Mittler Rebbe, as usual, is a very long, a very intense flow of consciousness here. What he's coming to say is like this now. That the very basic level, you have an oir by the teacher, he conceals it in order to present to a student a limited amount. Obviously, that which he reveals to the student, from his point of view, he knows the idea and its core source, so there's no concealment. Even that which he uses to conceal does not conceal for him. But there's something more going on here. He is in a state that is not that has nothing to do with the eir after the tzimtzum. He's able to reach the depths of whatever the topic is in a way that no one else can. So it's not just lefierach. Okay, the student gets a concealed version and he gets a revealed version. What he's coming to say here is that it's much deeper than that. That this light is ultimately, fundamentally defies Helam altogether. The way he sees it, the teacher sees it. In other words, no Helam can conceal for him. Not the Seichel itself. He can get to the depths of any idea, to the deepest of the depths. And even when it's concealed for others, meaning like for the student, for him there's no concealment. He sees it all as it is. So the Rebbe is now adding a little more to the whole topic. So I want to read it inside again. He says, "Im kein zeu," he says like this. So it's not the pshat that the eir before the tzimtzum is rooted. Let me just say it's not rooted. It's not connected to the eir after the tzimtzum. Why? If it was only relative to the eir before the tzimtzum, then it wouldn't be called eir amukis. The chochman aloma shenikra cheshach sishish in the Tzimtzum, because here he's talking about the depths of the seichel that are beyond the darkness that was in the Tzimtzum sheyevman iragili erzem Tzimtzum canal. In other words, the light that came to the student after the Tzimtzum is one level of light. Elamuchlech lemer, you have to say that by the teacher, he's accessing a different level of light altogether. It's not just the light that is subject to the tzimtzum for the student. That this air that's revealed for him, that precedes the darkness, the concealment in the darkness. That's because he's connected to a level of gilui that fundamentally cannot be concealed. That's how deeply connected he is to the source of the idea, to the source of the. Why? Because its root. Because the root is in the atzmus of the moed. In other words, it's not just two levels of light before the tzimtzum, after the tzimtzum. The root of this is all the way the core of the lumen of the source. Shemeir er shalei ha'atzmis shalafonov. Shemeir er shalei ha'atzmis. That in it is radiating the core er. Shalafonov vadei niglu kol talumes. The cheshach ha'elyon v'loi nikra cheshach hayamukis klal. That before him, that level, certainly, all the concealed, all the secrets are revealed of the cheshach elyon, and it's not called cheshach or amukis klal. In other words, even that which is a fundamentally dark state, for him it's all revealed. The Masha Yoshas, Cheshach Sisrei, that which we spoke before about establishing darkness, that's the level that is subject to tzimtzum and concealment. Like we spoke before, that he rolled back the eir in order for the cheshach to come. Let me read that again. The Mashiach. Just a moment. Yeah, Yoshas Cheshach Sisrei is what's in Tzimtzum and the Salam. But the deeper Alkein Erzeh Megala Kol Helm the Chochma. If you should call Cheshach Nitchem Mepnei Erzeh. Yeah, this is the higher level, because all Cheshach is pushed aside due to this Eir, because it's beyond Cheshach altogether. Okay, this needs to be reviewed, obviously, because it's a little complicated. But I want to finish till the end of the paragraph, then I'll go back. He says, "V'zeu b'chinas eir de teira mitzvahs dafke." And this that we're talking about is called the eir of teira mitzvahs dafke. She'amar v'teira eir. This is the meaning, the real meaning of a teira eir. She'u pnimius ha'chochma de'atzmus ein sof mamish. This is the inner dimension of chochma of atzmus ein sof mamish, that is completely beyond any choshech, bechinas eira atzmis or pnimius, the eir that's the core and inner, like by Matan Torah say eir panecha. Panecha means pnimius. You gave us your impnimius. So kamay eir hameir atzmei kodim sheyat tzimtzum arishin the cheshach sisrei. This is the eir hameir. This is the light that shines the way it was before the tzimtzum arishin of cheshach sisrei. That's already the cheshach of the tzimtzum. Ukanal, like we spoke about earlier, ki b'chochma de Torah eir. Next page, 405. Because in chochma of Torah eir, sheira b'chinas atzmus eir ein sof. It resides, what rests in there, dwells there. The eir that rests in atzmus eir ein sof mamish k'may shaya lifnei tzimtzum, as it was before the tzimtzum shaya hu u'shmai bilvad, when it was just him and his name alone. And that name, Shmai, is usually refers to Eir. This Eir Lifnei Tzimtzum. So that's Torah Eir. So the real meaning of Torah Eir is not is the lower level, the way Torah comes after the Tzimtzum. But the Torah, as it is before the Tzimtzum, is the real Torah Eir that captures the essence of divine wisdom without any filters and without any concealments at all. And what we learned earlier, let me just finish. Be'inya Beis Deis, we learned about Das Tachton and Das Elyon. So he said the Das Elyon, B'yesh la'ayin, Das Elyon is from the Yesh of the Etzem to the Ayin of Eir Ein Sof. Zeu Ayin de Chochmei Lo Agduma de Torah Eir. That's what we're referring to. That's the Ayin of the higher Chochma Agduma of Torah Eir before the Tzimtzum. That's like the Ayin of the Yesh Amiti. Kamoshi is bod, as shall be explained later. So that's the higher level. Then the lower level would probably be Das Tachten, the ayin of the Yashamiti, the Torah Eir as it comes into existence. Okay. Well, briefly, though it's a long arichas here, briefly the bottom line is that there's an Eir of Torah as it comes down like to the recipient. There it's measured. There it's limited and concealed. There's the Eir of Torah as it is before the Tzimtzum. Eir Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum, completely not concealed. All concealments do not conceal before it. And the contrary. There, you can get to the depths of the deepest levels. And nothing is to the deepest secrets. All of it is revealed. That's essentially what he's saying here. So in other words, it's not just revealed to the teacher higher than the student. He's just on a different level. It's a different qualitative level of Eir. That's beyond Cheshach altogether. And this is going to all set the stage to try to explain, he's going to further explain Torah Eir and Eir Mitzvah, but we didn't get there yet. Because I see the next paragraph, he says, V'agam shachachim the Torah yarda. Torah did come down to the lower levels, but it's going to retain its asmizdika nature. What we're going to basically come away with is that Torah Eir is not just regular Eir. It's a Eir Atzmi. As a Eir Atzmi, that's why Ner Mitzvah Torah, that's why it has something that mitzvahs don't have. Before we ask the question that L'cheira Mitzvah is the Iker, Ma'isa Iker. And Eir, Torah Eir is not as high level. But not when you talk about the Atzmi of Torah, that's going to be a higher level. That's what Pashto is coming to explain. But we're not there yet. There's much more to go as we continue discussing this topic.
Mitzvahs are still higher because
That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. You're going to see here that he's going to speak that Torah is going to has an element that's higher than mitzvahs.
Rabbi Jacob said, in this highest level, you remember we had a whole discussion that neshamot were at that level, the highest level, were higher than Torah. Now we're talking this highest level of Torah. How do you, I know this is not a topic of discussion right now, but is there any way of knowing at that highest level which is higher? Is it the Torah that's higher or the neshamot? Or do we know anything like that?
It's too early to tell. We'll see where he goes with this. We have more to go. We're in the middle of the topic. He hasn't finished it yet. So I'm not going to speculate on that.
I don't know, but I think
I'm not going to speculate. Look, you guys do a lot of processing. I just don't have that type of bandwidth. I'm learning what we're learning right now. I'm trying to understand what he's saying right now. I've said this many times. It's just my way of teaching. What should I say? I can't jump ahead with the Mittler Rebbe hasn't gone there yet. He's not even discussed. He didn't even go back to Torah mitzvahs yet. He's starting to explain two levels of Eir and Torah. You want to jump ahead? Fine. But as a teacher, I find that I can't jump ahead until the Mittler Rebbe gets there. We have a lot more to learn. So you want to look ahead? Go ahead. You can learn. You can read the pages ahead, by all means. We're not there yet. Right now, he established that there's two levels in Torah. I'm not going to speculate what he's going to say in the next 16 pages, because he's going to talk about it. I know one thing, that when you restrain yourself and listen to what he's going to say, you'll understand it well. If not, you'll understand what you understand well, not necessarily what the Mittler Rebbe understands. That's why I'm very adamant of not going, of waiting till the Mittler Rebbe explains it, or else you're going to come up with all your theories instead of understanding what the Mimer says. So I'm just telling you how the method of learning that I employ.
Could you explain what is the question?
There's no question. He's just comparing it to that level that we're talking here. Lifnei Tzimtzum, the Aselian is the ayin of the Yesh Amiti is what Torah is. Ayin the Choch Milah Gduma the Torah Eir is this higher level, and most likely the lower level of Torah Eir is the Eir of Das Tachten, where the ayin of the Yesh Aniv. That's most likely what he's saying here. But he says Kamosh is bar, so I'm sure he's going to explain that as well. So we have a while to go. He's going to be discussing Torah Eir now for a while. Then he's going to come back to mitzvahs. And then hopefully to Neshamis. We'll see how it all comes together. It's the Torah that comes down Lamata.
Oh.
I have to look also in Ayin Beis if he brings this. I think he also brings this. That Yesh Amiti Torah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll stop here. End of the paragraph on top of page 405. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here, top of page 405.